You have about 27,000 days on this planet, give or take. And right now, while you're watching this video, that number's still going down. Here's the thing nobody says out loud. You already know this. You've known it your whole life. So why doesn't it feel real? By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the exact moment your brain finally gets it. The moment the countdown stops being a fact you know and starts being a fact you feel. Because there's a difference, and that difference changes everything. Chapter 1. The Fog We Live In. Right now, you're living like you've got forever. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, because your brain is built that way. Psychologists call it temporal discounting. Your brain treats future stuff, even your own mortality, like it's smaller, blurrier, less real than what's right in front of you. That's why you'll scroll for 40 minutes without blinking, but put off the one phone call that actually matters. Someday doesn't feel real. Today feels real. So today wins. Every single time. And it's not just phone calls. It's the apology you keep meaning to send. The trip you keep pricing out and never booking. The conversation with your parents you keep telling yourself you'll have next time you visit. Here's the part that stings a little. Your brain isn't malfunctioning when it does this. It's actually working exactly as designed. Immediate stuff, comfort, dopamine, avoiding awkwardness, gets processed by a fast, ancient part of your brain. Distant stuff, like your own mortality, gets processed by a slower, newer part that's honestly just easier to ignore. So the fog isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's what lets you function without spiraling every single day. But it comes at a cost, and most people don't notice the cost until it's already been paid. Chapter 2. The 4 Seconds. But every once in a while, something cracks that fog. Maybe it's a text. Did you hear about? And a name comes up. Someone you knew. Not old, not sick, just gone. Faster than anyone expected. And for about 4 seconds, your whole nervous system does something it almost never does. It believes you're going to die. Not someday, probably. Not eventually, sure. Actually, specifically, on a real, unknown date, sooner than you'd like. Researchers have a name for this. They call it mortality salience. It's the psychological jolt of your own death becoming, for a few seconds, undeniably real instead of abstractly true. And here's the wild part. In that state, your priorities don't shift a little. They reorganize completely, almost instantly, without you deciding anything. Suddenly, the group chat argument feels embarrassing. The promotion you've been chasing feels smaller. The person you've been meaning to call feels like the only thing that actually matters. For a few minutes, you're not living on autopilot anymore. You're living like the clock is actually genuinely running. Which, by the way, it was. The whole time. Chapter 3. Why it fades so fast. And then, here's the part nobody warns you about. It fades. The fog comes back. By tomorrow, you're scrolling again. By next week, you barely remember the feeling at all. That's not a personal failure. That's just how the brain protects itself. If you walked around actually feeling your mortality every single day, you'd never function. You'd be paralyzed by it. So your brain does the opposite instead. It numbs you back down, keeps the fog low enough that you can get through Tuesday without falling apart. Think of it like a snow globe. Something shakes it, a scare, a loss, a close call, and for a moment, everything's swirling and visible and impossible to ignore. Then it settles, and settles fast, usually within days. Most people treat that settling as the end of the lesson, like the clarity was a one-time gift that already expired. But here's the actual click. The moment this stops being a scary idea and starts being useful. The snow globe doesn't have to wait for someone else's bad news to get shaken again. You can shake it yourself, on purpose, whenever you want. Chapter 4. Borrowing the clarity on purpose. You don't need to feel your mortality every day. That's not sustainable, and honestly, it's not even healthy. You just need to borrow the clarity, on purpose, every once in a while. This isn't new, by the way. Stoic philosophers were doing a version of this over 2,000 years ago. They called it memento mori. Remember you will die. Not to be morbid, to stay honest about what actually mattered that day. Some of them practiced something called premeditatio malorum, basically deliberately imagining loss before it happens, so you stop taking things for granted while you still have them. You don't need Latin phrases for this. You just need the habit. Once a week, maybe once a month, sit down and actually ask yourself the question your brain usually protects you from. If you had 18 months left, not to panic, not to sell everything, just to actually live differently, what would you stop doing tomorrow? Not some big dramatic bucket list, just what would you finally stop tolerating? What conversation would you stop avoiding? What relationship would you stop half showing up for? That question doesn't need a real deadline to work. It just needs you to take it seriously for about 90 seconds. That's usually enough to see what you've actually been avoiding. Chapter 5. The One Question. That question is the countdown clicking. Not death anxiety, not doom, just clarity, borrowed on purpose before life makes you borrow it the hard way. Because the number's going down either way, that part was never optional. It never was, not for a single day of your life, whether you looked at it or not. The only real choice you actually get is whether you notice it before the 4 seconds get forced on you by something you didn't ask for. So here's your version of the question, right now. No pressure to answer it out loud. What's one thing, today, you'd stop tolerating if you actually believed the number was real? If this one hit different, I made a video right before this that connects to it in a way I didn't expect while writing it. It's about why you burn out even after a vacation, and honestly, a lot of it comes back to the same thing. Time you thought you had that you didn't actually spend the way you meant to. No pressure. It'll be right there if you want it. Either way, thanks for spending a few of those 27,000 days on this one.